Today I want to talk to you about the idea of a social contract and why certain people are not included in the social contract. To explore this question, use chapter 1, 3, and 6. Chapter 1 talks about the segregation of white and African American after the 1960s between suburbs and cities because of the riots in Detroit. Some white people forced politicians to kind of get incentives to segregate. Also, they didn't feel safe, and there was provisions put in place so that African Americans could not, even if they could afford to live in the suburbs, do so. So they basically got the short end of the stick. And it continued with chapter 3, where the racial profiling in the inner cities, communities that are mostly poor and minorities, are so over-policed that it makes them more susceptible to incarceration. This leads to the belief and the argument in chapter 6 that African Americans were never a part of the social contract, but they were always somehow supposed to abide by it. And the argument the author makes is that there is no reason for them to work and to pay into our society if they're not being helped by it. And I would argue that they're actually being hurt by society and the history of discrimination. It it tries to condemn social welfare programs, but to recap, if you historically have discriminated against African Americans in the housing by segregating them, and because of that forcing them to not have the best schools, because in case you didn't know, schools are zoned by property tax. So the more property tax you have, the better school districts you have because of the money you're allowed to put into it. Also, the over policing and the lack of protection of their rights. Actually, I would argue, and people have argued, that they are not protected under our society rule. So to quote one of our founding fathers, no taxation without representation is what we're built on. So how can we expect African Americans to pay into our social contract without being represented in it? And that's what it is.